This is Marjorie E. Roberts, and I am the owner of Roberts, Mangum and Bennett Consulting, which is an accounting firm here in the Metro Jackson area. And I am the host and founder of the Money Variable podcast and the Money Variable, which is a nonprofit organization which helps teach financial literacy to communities. And today we are continuing our series concerning financial trauma. So, this piece of our series, we have a wonderful guest with us, and I'm going to let her introduce herself in just a moment. But let me mention this disclaimer. I am an accountant, but I am not your accountant. In order for you to do business with me, I have to have you sign a contract. And my guest here is a counselor and a therapist, but she is not your counselor and she is not your therapist. So the information that we are providing to you today is for information purposes only. If you need any additional information, you can contact us at our offices directly, and she will provide her contact information to you a little bit later, and I will provide my information to you a little bit later as well. So I am going to introduce you to you guys, Miss Leona Bishop. She is an amazing woman, very sweet, very intelligent, and she is very good at the craft that she does. Leona, let her tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Marjorie. I'm really excited to be here and share with you and your guests today. I'm a licensed professional counselor, supervisor. I've been in practice for about 30 years. I'm the owner of Count It All Joy Counseling Services, where we specialize in trauma-informed care. I am trained in internal family systems, and I'm an internal family systems informed eye movement desensitization and processing consultant and trained in EMDR. And if you've heard of that, it's just another form of psychotherapy to help people with PTSD, anxiety, depression, and any other, mood disorder that may bring them in for therapy.
That's good. That is good. And thank you so much for participating. And I appreciate you coming on the show with us today. We have been covering financial trauma, which is something that a lot of people are not aware of, but it is something that I wanted to make sure that I brought to the forefront in our communities, and not just in our communities, but in all communities. Because in my area of expertise, lending, banking, accounting, over the years that I have realized that there's always a root cause to the reason why people do anything, but also how they handle their money. Our initial episode, I discussed my financial traumas, as I was growing up. I struggled with things financially, not so much because of my choices, but because of the choices of someone else. And that person was dealing with some trauma, emotional trauma, and they didn't know how to handle those situations. But I brought you on today to break it down or explain how financial trauma shows up. So that's basically what we're going to discuss today,
Okay.
is how financial trauma actually shows up, in our lives concerning our spending. So, with that being said, let me ask you this. What are some of the day-to-day ways financial trauma can show up in someone's life?
Okay. So sometimes when I think about trying to explain financial trauma, for me, we first have to understand what is trauma. And one of the easiest ways for me to define what trauma is it's anything that negatively impacts how you see yourself, how you see other people, how you see yourself in the world. So just kind of think about it. If it's something that makes you feel differently or negatively about yourself, then that could, lend itself to trauma. Because I used to just think it had to be the big epic stuff like abuse and going to war, but it's anything that impacts how you see yourself. And so then I think about there are like three classes of trauma. There is acute trauma, which is something that happens like one time. And from a financial lens, this could be something like waking up one day and finding out your check has been garnished and you had plans for that. And that could be like an acute one-time trauma. Trauma can also be um, chronic, meaning it has happened over a period of time. And that's where we get into poverty or living with scarcity, right? And then there could be the complex trauma. And the way we always talk about complex trauma is that trauma has happened over a period of time, but it is caused by somebody who's supposed to be your provider, your protector. And so when I think from a financial lens, the complex trauma could be when you know you're living in this scarcity, you're living with lack, but somebody who's supposed to be your provider, another parent, is across town looking like everything is good over there,
Yeah.
or taking care of another family, and you're struggling because then you take on this negative thought or belief about yourself. It's not true, but it feels like you're not important. And so how does that show up in everyday life? I'm just gonna say like when you get older, because most of the time those are things that happen when you're young. So in my everyday life now, it might look like my not wanting to open the mail or answer the telephone because it's probably a bill collector. Procrastinating on things that are the financial matters, like balancing a checkbook. I'm just swiping the card and saying, hopefully it's the magic card and it works. Or quite the opposite. Like I'm not gonna go to that place because I know I don't have the means to be there. So it can show up in a lot of different ways.
That is good. That is good. And I know like I mentioned before, that this is, kind of some untapped territory, you know, and there are so many different things that are involved in that, and we don't really realize, how things impact us, even, as little children, and how they impact us as adults as well. So let me ask you a question now. How can situations that we deal with as adults impact us, financially? And I know that some of the things you mentioned, they were rooted from childhood, and we have those learned behaviors because of the traumas that we experienced. But also as adults, we have traumas as well that impact us. So, what are some of the maybe causes, as adults, that we can experience that might push us into that area of financial trauma and impact the way that we handle our finances?
I guess considering things of today as an adult, it could be job loss, right? Losing a job, going through a divorce, those things definitely impact your financial stability. Um, and that's when we go back to the scarcity of this
Mhm.
is what I once upon a time had, and now I don't have that. And as you kind of talked about, like bringing in a little bit about being young and that negative thought or negative belief that you have, you know, just not just being overwhelmed by whatever the situation is. And so if I lose my job or I'm going through this divorce, my money is not what my money used to be. And so now, how am I responding to that? Right.
Yeah.
And different people respond in different ways. And there's a more healthier way to respond, and then there's a not so healthy way. But you heard me earlier talk about internal family systems, and you're gonna hear me talk about parts of me. Like I got a part of me that feels this way, and you probably said this to yourself too. There's a part of me that feels this way or thinks this way, and there's another part that has, responds something somewhat differently. And when we're in those financial crises, those parts are responding and they're reacting to the situation because they're just trying to protect our system, but they might be doing a little bit too much. Like they might be keeping us up at night. We should be,
Yeah.
but there's a part in our brain that's like running through like, what if, and when, and what, we're going through a bunch of scenarios. So when we're impacted, whenever something the stability of what we used to have financially is gone. So, I
Yeah.
mean, in terms of what events can happen in adulthood, I'm mainly coming up with, job loss, divorce, the death of a loved one, especially if it was somebody who was, a provider or shared the responsibilities of, a household
Yeah.
contributions.
Yeah. That is good. As you were talking, I began to think about how I handle things now. Sometimes that scarcity mindset, comes to me because, I am accustomed to, growing up. At first we had things, but then one of my parents experienced a trauma, had a traumatic experience, and because of that, it ended up being challenging for us as children. But because of that, I had a mentality of not having enough. And in that, the not having enough, when I got to a space to where, I could manage my money and doing things of that nature for myself and for my children, I was always the one who went without because I wanted to make sure that everything else was taken care of. Even if, it was just me going to, get my nails done or, doing something for myself, buying myself a nice outfit or different things of that nature. It was always that thought, oh, shoot, you can do something else with that money. You're wasting money. But when in reality, I really was not, wasting money. I just wanted to do things for myself. But I felt guilty because of that, because of the scarcity mindset, that I had. And and to be honest, as an adult, I still, struggle with that because I have to literally make conscious decisions. Hey, go get your nails done. Hey, it's okay. Go buy your
Okay.
outfit.
So
It's
think about the
okay.
part of you that you're talking to, Marjorie. Think
Yeah,
about the part of you that you're having to talk to. So that's the type of therapy I do is going in and finding that little girl
yeah,
who didn't have it, who was worried about ends meeting. And even though you're an adult now, the part of you that still is inside is that little girl who's like, oh, but what if? And that's not a good idea. We're going to need that. What if we need that? And so it's learning literally how to talk to that part and bring her from this is the therapy I do. I'm sorry.
that's
It's going
okay.
to get that little girl and
Mhm.
bringing her up to the present. And I know this sounds really kind of, different for people,
No, it
but
sounds
it's getting
good.
that little girl and bringing her to the present so she could see, oh, we're not there anymore. The way that we were responding then, we don't necessarily have to have that same response now, that we can be reasonable in our spending. We can be reasonable about what we're saving because that is again a part of you, but you got to help that part to heal,
Yeah.
right? You got to help that part to heal.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good. Um, what roles does avoidance play when, like you mentioned before, like ignoring the bills, avoiding, looking at your bank accounts, avoiding answering phone calls and different things of that nature. What role does avoidance play, in that financial trauma for us?
I like that question. And again, see, I'm gonna keep going back to this internal
I
family.
need you to. I need you to. Yes. Yes.
I'm gonna keep going back to these parts. And let me briefly give to you when I talk about parts with internal family system, what I'm talking about. You have parts of you that are managers. And
Right.
these managers are like, girl, we got it. Like they're gonna help you keep going and keep moving and showing up and um balancing a checkbook. Like that's a manager. But when we get more stressed, and so I use a term called in my window of tolerance.
Mhm.
It means just that what can I tolerate? If I'm in my window, I put numbers and colors to it. Everybody know green means good to go, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yellow means, slow down with a little caution, but you still good. You're in the window.
yeah.
So, but when we get on the edge, and when you talked earlier, you asked like, how does it show up? Okay, I can't eat, I can't sleep, I got these racing thoughts. That's being on the edge. And so when you talk about this part of you that is avoiding, you're not in the window. You're not in your window. You're not being rational. You're not calm, curious about, oh, what's in that mail? You're not curious. If you're on the edge, it's more like avoiding. And so you have the managers, but the managers are just trying to protect you. And so it'll tell you, girl, don't open it. That's gonna be bad. Oh, just ignore it. And so we start avoiding things like opening the mail or balancing the checkbook. But the role that it's playing, even though it's there trying to protect us, because we're avoiding, we kind of set ourselves up for things to be worse because we've ignored it. So it's not, I don't want to say we're avoiding it and it's like a form of like laziness or just, irresponsibility. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you really do have a part of you that's just trying to protect you because it doesn't know anything better. Like it doesn't have another way at this moment to protect it. Again, we got to go work with that part, have some curiosity about that part, let that part know I get it. I get it. We remember once upon a time when blah, 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 right? When these things happen in our lives. But working with the part of us that's avoiding and helping it to have its own courage, have its own curiosity to say, what if there's a different way? And that's what we do with the parts. What if there's a different way? What if we can approach this in a way that is more beneficial and you wouldn't have to work so hard making me avoid facing some of my reality? And if I can be more proactive, we won't be in those situations the way we were back then.
Oh,
It's working with the parts.
that is good stuff. You are dropping some wisdom. Oh gosh, just to hear about the different parts
Parts. We
of
all have
them.
them. We all have them. There are no
Ooh.
bad parts. That's,
Mm.
Richard Schwartz, um, not our Richard Schwartz in Mississippi, but the founder of Internal Family System, his idea is there are no bad parts, but our parts are there managing us, they're protecting us. And if we have parts that are working too hard and, doing the most, we call them firefighters. And those parts are doing just what a firefighter does, right? They want to put out the hurt.
Yeah,
That's how we end up overspend. I'm going to use that as an example.
yeah,
Overspending could be a part of you. As we call it firefighter part, because it doesn't want you hurting. It doesn't want you feeling that lack. It doesn't want you feeling like you're not enough. Whatever that negative thought or belief is that we talked about earlier, the firefighter part comes up like it doesn't want you to feel it. So if that means we're gonna go overspend, we're gonna overspend.
yeah.
If that means we're gonna hoard, we're gonna hoard.
Mm.
The firefighter part is going to do whatever it feels like it needs to do. When everything else fails, I'll shut it down, right? It's
Yeah.
going to happen to this. And so that's the language that we use. But just try to help people understand how to work with, where this stuff is coming from.
Yeah.
Because sometimes some people who have trauma may ask themselves, like, what's wrong with me? Why do I do that? I knew I was supposed to pay that bill, but yeah, I wouldn't have a good night out, right? why did I do that? What's wrong with me? And I often say it's not what is wrong, but it's what has happened because there's something somewhere in life, something has played out in a certain way that your parts are just responding accordingly. And it's getting in and understanding why and helping those parts to heal.
Oh, yes, yes. You are dropping wisdom and gems tonight. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It is um such eye-opening experience just to listen to your wisdom and the things that you're saying, and it's so impactful. You know, oh gosh, this is really, really good. This
I know
is
it's a
good.
different way. I know it's a different lens,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah,
know it's a different perspective. Somebody else will probably come and they would have spoke about this totally different and probably more intellectual and but for me, I do use a lot with the parts because I think everybody can relate when we're talking about financial trauma or any kind of trauma. It's not all of me. You
right,
know what I'm saying? Like when I'm going through certain things, it's not all of me that doesn't want to open that letter. It's
right,
just part of me. But the
yeah,
part that doesn't open it is probably bigger and winning.
yeah,
There's another part of me that wants to be responsible.
yeah.
There's another part of me that want to get it right. But
Hmm.
it's you got to work with the parts to get everybody on the same page so we're moving in the same direction.
Oh yeah, that's good. That is good. So it's like being out of alignment.
Yeah.
You know how
Yeah.
they say you gotta have all your ducks in a row.
All the ducks in a row. And I often say it's like who's in the driver's seat? Because you remember I told you like, being I use the colors. So green is good to go. So if I'm good to go, and if that's in the driver's seat, I'm making all the great decisions that's helping my system. But if I got, and let's just go on to orange and red, those are the ones that are outside or on the edge. If that's in the driver's seat, I'm going to be impulsive and I'm
Mhm.
going to not address my financial situation rationally. It's literally going to people going to be like, wait, what? You did what?
Yeah, yeah,
But bec- but
yeah.
but there was a different part of you that was responding to some stuff in the past,
Mm.
right? It was a part of you that was responding from its hurt and its vulnerabilities and its
Yeah,
the lack, the scarcity,
yeah,
the
yeah.
fear that we won't have enough, or the fear that all of this will be taken away.
Mm.
That part, if it's in the driver's seat, you're just going to get different, not as productive responses. So it's about who's driving,
Yeah,
who's in the driver's seat, and we,
yeah,
as much as we can stay in that window, we
yeah.
want those people in the driver's seat.
Oh, that's good. Oh my gosh, that is so good. Okay, so what impact does constant financial stress have on productivity
Oh, I'm
in
productive.
in personal lives, but also in the workforce?
Okay. You know, I'm just kind of thinking about chronic stress, and if I'm just under that pressure, whether it's financial, emotional, whatever. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm not going. I'm my sleeping habit is going to be impaired, right? When I should be asleep, I'm going to be ruminating certain situations, and so just kind of think about it. If your body doesn't have enough sleep, what, where is your focus?
yeah, yeah,
Right? Where's your ability to concentrate and be productive? Again, I use those color zones. You're on the edge. And so your sleeping is off, you're eating, you're either overeating or undereating. Well, if you're undereating, or if you're undereating, you don't have the energy. If you're overeating, you're tired because your body's trying to process all that sugar. Is what I'm saying, the carbohydrates, because you're
yeah,
typically not eating healthy when you're on the edge or outside.
yeah,
And so when you just kind of think about your productivity, if you got health conditions and that begin to show up when you're on the edge or outside of your window, you got GI issues and stress related conditions that are showing up. I mean, can you be productive with a headache? I can't.
I
I
can't.
try. I really try. But I'm not as productive. I really just need my body is speaking to me and saying it's time to go rest.
Yeah.
So productivity is not what it could be if I was not feeling all of that anxiety or
Yeah.
depression
Yeah.
from, my financial woes at the moment.
Yeah, that is so powerful. It is so powerful. I want to thank you for joining us on today, or joining me on today for the Money Variable podcast. And I want you to tell everybody just a little bit about yourself. I think you've written a couple of books, I
Yeah.
believe.
Okay, so again, I'm using all this language like internal family systems, your parts, the color zone. And I know it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you first hear it, but most of the time when I'm talking to people, they're like, oh my God. Like I heard one lady say, she said, you took those day-to-day issues that we face and you brought it, she said, you put it right here. And I was
Yeah,
like, hey.
yeah,
She said, it didn't go over my head. It was right here. It touched my heart and it made sense. And I
yeah.
was like,
I
oh,
agree.
thank
I agree.
thank you, God. I thank God for that. So the name of the books are Journey to Joy. It's a guide and a journal for your emotional wellness. And so
Mhm.
in the guide, a lot of the language that I was talking about is going to be explained. Um, as far as your color zone and how to stay within your window. And in this book, there are 75 self-regulating strategies that you can use to keep yourself closer to being within what we call the window of tolerance. And the
Mhm.
companion is a journal that has 75 writing prompts that, encourages you along your therapeutic journey. But even if you're not in therapy, these books will be very helpful to just help you regulate, identify more about yourself and the parts that are activated. And as we're talking today, if any of this resonated with you, that you're saying, like, oh my God, I have a part of me that fears, that carries this fear from when we were younger. I don't have enough, or I'm not valued, I'm not important. I'm not safe or protected. If you're carrying that negative thought or belief, this is a good time to consider therapy because that's what we do here. We get to the root. We're not just treating your symptoms. We're not just saying, okay, we're going to come in here and help you sleep. We're going to get to the root of what is the issue that is preventing you from sleeping. So we get to the root and we help people to heal from within. So,
Oh,
yeah.
that is good. So tell everyone how they can contact you.
Oh, yeah, that's easy. We're going to go with James chapter 1, verse 2 and 3. Count it all joy. But yes, just as the scripture says, count it all joy. That's the name of my company. The website is countjoy.net. So countjoy.net. So find us on our website. And if you want a consultation, there's a button called Let's Talk. You can click that button. I have about 5 other clinicians that are going to be working with me. We're located in Highland Village, and we do both virtual and in-person sessions. So virtual across the state of Mississippi. I'm also licensed in Texas. So if you have somebody out there who needs some services, I would love to help. But yeah, check out the website, check out the books. They're available on Amazon. Just when you type in Journey to Joy, put my name, Leona Bishop, and it will show up. So thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, this is Marjorie E. Roberts. I am the owner of Roberts Mangum Bennett Consulting, which is an accounting firm here in the Metro Jackson area. And you can contact me at www.robertsmangumbennett.com, or you can give me a call at 769-247-4400. And as always, we will see you guys next month, and I will be breaking down the books. We will be talking to business owners. Next month, we will be dealing with nothing but business finances, business accounting, and business bookkeeping. That is going to be what we will be focusing on in the month of September. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Peace and blessings. Y'all have a good one, and we will see you next week. Thank you, Leona.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.